Second video on the '07 LS460. This time we're doing the outer tie rod ends. So we have the replacement here. It is an OEM model this time around. Before that, I had replaced them a few years ago as well with some third party. Can't remember what brand this was. But if you look here, there's quite a bit of movement there. It's just flopping around compared to, of course, the new one, which is pretty stiff. You know, if I can move this other one with one hand, then it's pretty much shot. I already did the ones on the driver's side the other day, so I'll just kind of get myself familiar with them again, because the old ones, like I said, I'm not sure what brand these are. Can't remember where I got these, but it's online. The old one had just a regular old castle nut. That's a 19 millimeter nut there for the one that came off. The ones that are on this new one are a little smaller, but this one had it's just a nut, and then it has a washer that was underneath the nut, whereas this one's got a full castle nut and washer all in one type of thing. And I think that is I think it's a 17 millimeter on this one. So this is what we're going up to next, and bring it over to the car again. So like I said, we're doing the front passenger side today. And if you look around here, so you see them here. Now on the front passenger side, so if you look down here, I can get it in the shot all the way. If you can move it, I can hear it knocking on the bushing down here. So that was another part of what I was trying to fix, was the kind of that knocking noise on the front end. In the last video I did the uppers, and they're doing well still. I haven't had any issues with those. Holding together pretty well. The preload seemed to have worked. Now I just got to do the bottom. So I would say so far the noise is probably 80% gone. This one is the one I got to get next. So I'm going to get that off, and then we'll be back. One thing I wanted to show you is that in most of these tie rod replacements, they one or two things you can kind of do. Most people will say too, once you get this removed, you count the revolutions from the locking nut until this whole rod end comes off. Some people say to go up here and count the number of threads to see where the nut has to be when you put it all back together. I've done that. And then I measured from the back end here to the top of the nut, and that came out to 9 inches from there to there. So that's just another kind of measurement I'll take, just to make sure when I put it back together, the alignment's not that far off. Like I said, I'll still wind up getting this thing aligned probably this coming week, since we're planning that trip here before too long. But to bust this nut free, you get 2 wrenches. You get a 19 millimeter, and I didn't have another 19, so that's the closest thing you can get is a 3/4. So where you have the flat spot here where you attach, I will put one kind of back on it like so. Get this to go up there. So I'll get my hand out of the way. So I'll get one of the wrenches on the flat spot here, and whatever way it needs to go in. So basically you're going to set it so that it fits in there and it rests on either the lower control arm so that it kind of fits in like so, where you kind of got it resting in there, because when you take the nut off, you don't want this to spin, so you have to brace it, and that will kind of keep this from rotating on you when you're trying to pop that nut off. So that's why you need at least 2 19s or a 19 and a 3/4. So I've already got this loosened up, as you can see. Yeah, it's kind of loose. Put my wrench back on it. So you can kind of see it spin there like that a little bit. And I put some PB Blaster on the top of the nut just to soak it through, so when I pound this off of there, usually I just pound the top of that. These things come off pretty quick. Sometimes you can almost pull them down by hand if you have enough leverage. But that's kind of where we're at next, is just to remove this and take this off. We got the old one off. One thing I've kind of noticed, if you look down into the threads on that one, I don't know if you see that or not. There's a little bit of a gap there where the threads start. You see that little smooth area there. And on the OEM ones, the threads kind of start closer to the top. You don't have that bigger gap there. I think I noticed. Again, this is not sure what model I used, but if you look at this one again, you can see where it's just all moving around and stuff. So that's gone. And when I spun that one off, it took 6 revolutions to get it off of there. And I think I counted 10 threads showing on the nut end. I know when I did it on the other one, they pretty much were the same numbers, except it didn't go in there right. So I had to, it was like sticking too far out. And I wondered if, because of where the thread start on this is different than that one. So you had to go in a few more turns to get it to seat into the knuckle. Because this one kind of slides in a little bit, probably about quarter of an inch or so or less. Whereas this one just starts threading as soon as you get it in there. So I think that was just a few more turns before this would seat in. And then getting the nut seated was a little different. So anyway, we'll go with this next, and we'll be back when we got it installed. Okay, here we are now. Got it on. Got the new capsule nut and the cotter pin. Like I said, this guy here, the nut and washer are one piece, whereas the old one, nut and then a washer separate. And this is what I was saying about putting your wrench across, resting on the lower control arm, so that when you get your other wrench up there, you can just, tighten that down. Remember, that goes clockwise, I believe. No, it goes counterclockwise. You're pulling up, so it goes counter to get it off, of course. Anyways, so this one actually went on pretty good. I mean, it when you do the 6 count of the revolutions, it was still short a little bit, about the distance of that other tie rod end that had that little, smooth part before the thread started. So when I loosened this, I just barely cracked it loose, just so I can get it just a hair or two away to get this off. So then when this went on, I just ran that all the way up to about there and then tightened that back down about as much as I loosened it. So now with this in place, I'll get this wrench out of here. So there's no play like the other one was knocking back and forth in there. So I think that should solve my other problem. I'm going to get my measuring and see what it reads from here to the end. And I get it to hold still. From there, get it to hold. There. So it's about 9 inches. So that's about where it was. So everything looked like it went back in pretty good. And like I said, this is what came off of the old one. You have the washer, and then you have the nut here separately. So you got 2 pieces. And that's pretty much it. Take a closer look at those control arms again. See if I see anything going on. It looks pretty good to me still. The front bushings still look okay. Like I said, there's the difference in the stud size, but the other ones came off about the same way, just that the shorter one was a little longer than that, but not as long as that one, but it all came together. So I think that pretty much ends it for replacing these. Like I said, these are pretty simple. Just gotta get the car jacked up, get the wheel off. Just be careful when you take it off and do your measurements and your counts and stuff, so that you can get it on there without disrupting the alignment too much. But we'll get this back together and get it on the road. Make sure the alignment is pretty straight. I had to adjust it after I did the one on the driver's side yesterday, because that was off and the wheel was kind of cockeyed a little bit to the right. But I managed to adjust that down yesterday night and got it pretty much straight again. But if you ever have to adjust them, basically what you're doing is you loosen, of course, that nut and you spin it back and you grab onto the inner tie rod end here above the threads. There's flat spots in there. I think it's still another 19. I can't remember if, no, it's not. I think it was 14 that fits right up in there. So you would loosen that, take a wrench and then just twist it and make your adjustments, and then lock it back down with the nut. So mine was on the driver's side. It was probably pointing more towards inward. So when you do that to adjust it, you basically have to spin this counterclockwise to pull it away, so it pushes this out, because clockwise will bring the threads inward and this will get pushed inward to the middle. So I believe that's how it was. But anyway, just wanted to make this other video showing replacing these. I think that's about all the replacements. Hopefully that takes care of the last of that knocking noise. So we'll wrap it up here, and until the next time.